when President Trump fired the commissioner in charge of the Bureau of Labor Statistics because she had the very bad taste of issuing the statistics in the way that the Bureau normally does, letting us know what the unemployment rate is these days, how many people are out of work and looking, and so on, and adjusting the previous 2 months, which they always do because it takes more than a month or two to collect and review all the statistics. And her statistical report indicated that unemployment is worse this month than we hoped it would be, and she revised downward the employment numbers for 2 previous months. So we're now looking at a quarter of a year, which, as many economists, left-wingers, right-wingers, and those in the middle, had foreseen that we would be heading into a recession, into an economic decline. And the reason for it is very simple. No one knows what's happening in the economy. Mr. Trump has decided that the government is going to step in and raise and lower tariffs all over the world against every other country, going up, going down, staying the same, being temporarily suspended, being put back in, being raised again. No one can make a decision about how or where to invest money because there's too much added uncertainty on top of the normal uncertainty that always exists in markets. Mr. Trump's behavior has made that much worse. Everyone other than those he pays or those he fires, depending on his mood, knows what I've just said. It's well known among all statisticians. But there's a much more important issue than the obvious one that it isn't appropriate to fire the person who delivers the message because you don't like the message. All that Mr. Trump's firing of that unlucky woman, all that will do is mean that from now on, whoever replaces her, we will all be suspicious about what they're doing and why with the numbers. And of course, Republicans like Mr. Trump will be equally suspicious once the Democrats are back in position and they nominate or hire people for that job. So what we have is, once again, one less statistic we can look at with any confidence, and instead we have the politicized lying and faking and phony behavior that we have come to expect now in more and more aspects of what we used to call the government. But that's not the real issue. But it gives me a chance to talk with you about the real issue. The real issue of statistics. All statistics are numbers. Numbers about things we think are important. So we go out there, we pay people to go out there and collect the numbers. For example, how many people are out of work? We ask people. We look at information that will give us a sense of how many people are out of work and looking. That's the unemployment statistic. But as everyone knows who works in statistics, what you get depends on three things. One, how do you collect the information? For example, with unemployment, do you trust asking people if they're working or not? Do you trust employers to give you an accurate statement? There might be all kinds of reasons why they don't want to do that. How can you be sure? So all statistics can be debated, and by the way, all statistics are debated, including all of the unemployment statistic. I have gone to countless conferences in my life as a professor of economics where people debated statistics, including employment statistics. So one big debate, how do you gather them? Second debate, how do you process them so you get a kind of nice number, like this month unemployment was X% bigger or smaller than last month? How you work it out, how you process the raw data is another subject about which reasonable people debate. And then third, on top of collecting the information and processing the information, there's how you interpret the information. When you hear the news reporter tell you, today unemployment went up, you're hearing an interpretation of some processed numbers that were somehow gathered. You don't know exactly how they were gathered or processed, or for that matter, interpreted. But that's still not the real issue. And it certainly is beyond anything Mr. Trump understands or has ever spoken about, not even for 1 minute, as he was firing somebody who does the statistical work. Here is the real issue. It matters what you count. Let me show you how that works. If what you look at is employment numbers, here's how the interpretation goes. If more people are working, the economy is, you get ready, in good shape. And that's what you'll hear the economist on television tell you. Or if the economist is looking at it a little differently, he'll say, we hoped it would go up 6%, but it only went up 2%, and that's bad about the economy. It didn't go up as much as we want or need it to. But let me bring you to an awareness of something about statistics that you'll almost never hear. And that is, employment numbers are not the most important thing at all. Most people have a job in our society. Those who want it, most of them, have a job. They are much more interested in how is this job doing? Is it secure? Are people with jobs for, say, 2 years more or less likely to lose them in the next year? Here's another thing people are really interested in. How does my job and what I get paid to do it stack up against other jobs and other incomes that people earn? Let me give you a stark example. This week, the richest man on earth, Elon Musk, who owns hundreds of billions of dollars, was able to improve his income by getting 27 billion more dollars given to him by the Tesla Corporation. Now, if you're wondering why on earth would we live in an economy in which we know how many people don't have enough to get by, we see them on the street, we talk about them in the homeless encampments that exist in every American city, we know people need. How would it be possible that someone who already has more money than we can understand gets another $27 billion on top of it? That's crazy. That's obscene. And why does Mr. Tesla get it? Because he's doing such a good job with the Tesla company? The Tesla company is running into the toilet. Its stocks are worth much less today than they were 2 months ago, 4 months ago, 6 months ago, and so on. It's a company in terrible trouble. And the whole world knows what a disaster Mr. Elon Musk made out of Twitter when he bought it. He hasn't shown that above all other uses that $27 billion could have been put to in this earth we live on, we're giving it to this man who just did an awful job on the 2 larger corporations he's associated with. This is nuts. You know what we need? I got it. A statistic which exists, which tells us how unequal incomes are in our society. We're much more interested in that in who's rich and who's poor. We pay a lot of attention. It's very important to most of us to have some sense of it for ourselves, for our neighbors, for our family, for our children, and all the rest. And if you do a lot of work, which people like me do, you can go find the statistics, but you won't hear about them on the radio hardly ever, maybe a couple times a year, but you'll hear about employment statistics every couple of weeks. What's that about? Employers are interested in how much hiring is going on. Can they fire workers and find other ones quickly? They have interests in that, and that's why we get it. And you and I have interest in how unequal is the pie cut up amongst us. Is it justified? Is it getting worse? Are the rich getting richer? A clue. They are, and they have been for 40 years, but you don't hear very much about it, and you certainly don't get the weekly or monthly update the way you do about the unemployment statistics. No, unemployment isn't something that we put there every week or month because it's the most important. It isn't. It never was. It's useful for employers, and it's also useful not to let people know, which we could have, and we should have over the last 30 years, how every month the inequality gets worse. Because most Americans understand that inequality is a fundamental problem in every society. And if that problem is getting worse in good years and bad with Republicans and Democrats, wow, then maybe there's something fundamental going on which we don't want the results of. And that's why we don't hear about the distribution of income. Are people with a college degree getting much more money than people without it? Are people with skills, and if so, what kind, getting more money? Here's an important one that people like me are really interested in. How is it going for people whose income depends on the work they do? The wage they get paid, the salary they get paid for the work they're hired to do, versus the income of people who don't get income from their labor, often because they don't do any. They get income from the property they own. If they own money, they lend it and they get interest. That's their income. If they own land, they let people use it. They get a rent. That's their income. If they have money to buy shares of stock, they make that money available to the companies whose stock they buy. They get dividends. We might want to know, are the people who earn money by labor getting less and less, while the people who earn not by their labor, but by what they own, often what they inherited from grandma, doing better? We might want to know whether we live in that kind of economy. By the way, it is getting worse in just that way, and that's a good reason why you don't hear about it unless people like me, and I'm not the only one, do the work, gather the numbers, process them, interpret them, so you can see that you get much better insight if you use other statistics. And now the final punchline. When you hear an economist say, the economy is doing real well, and then they point at some statistics, always ask yourself, are they cherry picking which statistics to look at? Are they asking the questions about the economy that you and people like you are interested in? Or are the statistics serving somebody else? Mr. Trump has had a problem in the last 6 months. Let me take that back. He's obviously had lots of problems. But one of the problems he had was he kept saying the economy's great, the economy's great. And every poll of the mass of the people in America said the economy's not very good, the economy. And he couldn't understand how the people don't, what's the matter with people? Are they stupid? No, Mr. President, they aren't. But they look at different statistics from those you and the people you hire look at. And that was true before you fired the one who didn't give you the employment numbers you want. Don't be fooled, my friends. There's an old saying, the statistics may not lie, but the statisticians, those who gather them, those who process them, and those who interpret them, surely can and surely do. That's why you have to know what's going on. Talk to people who will explain to you what the different statistics are. The metaphor I like that I use to teach while I'm in the classroom is this. Imagine going to a doctor and saying, I haven't been feeling real well, doc. Take a look at me and give me an idea of what might be a problem. And suppose all he did was stick a thermometer under your tongue, measure your temperature, tell you it was 98.6, and sent you home, you're fine. You'd know, wouldn't you, that you probably need a different doctor. Why? Because you've heard about blood tests and x-rays and all kinds of other tests that doctors do. Because looking at only one fact, your temperature, or only one measurement, is never appropriate if there are many that you can access. And then what you want the doctor to do is tell you honestly, here are some things that are looking good in your test results, and here are some things that aren't. And now you're going to get my professional opinion. Weighing the good and the bad, you're in pretty good shape, and we can do a couple little things to help you out. An honest president, an honest politician, an honest economist would tell you that. A shyster, an advertising huckster parading as an economist, will cherry pick 1, 2, or 3 statistics that make things look good, if that's what he wants, or make things look bad, if that's what he wants. Tell you those, and then try to hustle you, fool you, lie to you to get you to believe what they want you to believe. Once again, don't be fooled.